How does it work if the Mafia picks someone that the doctor saves? Do you say who it was, or do you just say...
No, I say no one died.
Nobody died.
No, I thought you said... I'll get targeted. I actually can't play. I'll narrate. This is some Mafia. It's this game where you just bully one victim. And that victim just happens to be me.
When you're killing Sun, you put it on.
Is Mafia, 3 is Tanner, King is Detective, Queen is Nurse.
I didn't even know this
All right.
was been around.
Everyone close your eyes. Alright, Mafia, open your eyes. Acknowledge each other. Okay, close your eyes. Alright, night's over, everyone wake up.
Will? You meant to kill someone.
Wait, you forgot the detective and
You're a narrator.
I've never narrated before, wait.
Why is this guy doing that?
I vote for Joe!
Why is this No leech each other.
Okay, wait, the Mafia kills someone.
Yo, Mafia coming to make out for
Okay. Wait, can the nurse save someone on the first night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, nurse can save. Detective can check.
Dude, it's...
Shut your eyes, not that bad.
But you played the game. Dude, that's like cleaning up the
Yo, everyone shut the f*** up. Alright, everyone close the fucking eyes. Close the fucking eyes.
Oh, he's alpha. I like
Alright,
this.
Mafia,
Alpha and...
everyone close their eyes. Mafia, open your eyes.
say those words.
Mafia, open your eyes. Alright, look at each other, acknowledge each other.
And make out.
Alright, choose someone to kill. Alright, I've acknowledged your target. Close your eyes. Alright, nurse, open your eyes. Choose someone to save. Acknowledge. Alright, close your eyes. Alright, detective, open your eyes. Alright, choose someone to investigate.
Oh, wait, Joe, he needs to know how to...
Alright, everyone open your eyes. Cody, you're dead.
Oh, this game is shit.
You're the Mafia!
Who would kill off Cody on the first night? Stunned?
I'm in support.
As we come on the air tonight, much of America shutting down. Late today, President Trump issuing new nationwide guidelines for Americans across this country in the fight against the coronavirus. The outbreak spreading across the U.S. More than 1,300 new cases in just the last 24 hours, and that's without testing fully up to speed.
So honestly, it's been a weird couple of weeks, I guess now, at 100 Thieves League of Legends. I'm sure you guys are well aware, but week 8 isn't in the books like intended. We have been on temporary hiatus because of the COVID-19 coronavirus situation. It all was really late developing. We were scrimming as late as kind of Friday afternoon for a Saturday game, but ultimately Riot thought it wasn't best to proceed on the weekend, and given all the situation, I think everyone understood. Publicly, it's been announced that we're back on this weekend, so it's only a 1-week interruption. Looking behind me here at the Rocket Mortgage League of Legends training room, there are no players in it. There isn't as much life as there usually is in here because the entire League of Legends program, and that's LCS, Academy, and of course our next program, is all practicing from home. So we're all acclimatizing to a new challenge. There's always realities that we have to adapt to. We didn't see this one coming, but we're trying to make the most of it, and we're still trying to prove to you guys that we can be a playoff team here in spring season. So a bit of a unique situation. Usually we're looking back on the games played this weekend. Of course, there were no LCS games played, and usually we have lots of smiling player faces in here to come and talk to you about the week. But given the virus outbreak, and given also the players still adapting to the situation, now no longer being in a central location here at the Cash App compound, things are a little bit different this week. So we still wanted to bring you guys great League of Legends content. There's still lots to discuss because the team is still working super hard to practice for this upcoming weekend with only 4 games left in the LCS season. So what we did was we put out the call. If you have any questions for me, GM PapaSmithy, on the League of Legends program, on the game, about myself, about the team, and we got some good ones. We got some good ones. So thank you for everyone who submitted a question on the subreddit. We won't get to all of them today, but we're looking to answer some of the burning questions that the 100 Thieves faithful have about the League of Legends program. All right, so very topical question. This comes Through from the True Blue, spelled BLU, very Aussie, I appreciate it. How are the players reacting to being so far away from their families during this stressful time? And I'm sure we can expand that to just how are the players doing. Obviously, with a lot of borders being closed and just the fact that we've been in season mode, I think a lot of people are asking, are we still practicing the same as if the LCS was happening last weekend? Basically, nothing has changed in terms of practice cadence. It's been in season, it's been the sort of scenario where there isn't a lot of time to see loved ones, whether it's friends or families, but obviously tensions are always going to be raised here, and I've definitely, just in interacting with the players, kind of heard anecdotes about their parents reaching out and everyone checking in, and I encourage everyone at home to do the same thing, to check in on everyone you care about. I think everyone in general has put on a brave face, but that doesn't mean that everyone's always 100%, as you can imagine, but when it comes to the practice level, when it comes to have I been able to see a drop off because of stress, there's definitely moments, but I think in general, everyone is still just as focused on picking up that LCS title for 100 Thieves, on qualifying for playoffs. So of course there's an impact, there's a human cost to this very human situation, but in general, I think everyone is still laser focused because this happened, 80% of the way through the season, 2 weekends left till playoffs, and while it's a setback, it's a setback that everyone in the LCS and around the world is feeling, and thus all we can really do, or we can really take control of, is that focus on getting over the line for playoffs. Definitely a lot of questions around this topic, so definitely one we should address. What were the unique characteristics you saw in Ryoma when you picked him up? And it's a topic that I've touched on in video content, on Twitter. It's just a very common question, because when you pick up a player that most of the LCS fans very understandably weren't aware of for such an important role like mid lane, people will always look at the bits and pieces of information they have and try to rationalize either a direct quote or through his gameplay, why did you pick up this guy? And when it comes to Ryoma, what we've already talked about was that we had a lot of confidence in the player he could become, and that we understood that there might be a slow build up at the start. I hope that through the Heist, you guys have seen that Tommy, or Ryoma, is kind of a really, he's a really funny guy to be around. He has a really great attitude. He has a really great work ethic, not always easy to reflect in just interviews, but these are all things that are in his court. And when it comes to stepping up from the OPL to the LCS, Tommy is a player who we understood was a very rough diamond, so kind of redirecting myself to the direct question of what were the characteristics you saw. He's a playmaker, especially in the OPL, he was able to pull the trigger in some really, really extravagant ways, and I always love an aggressive mid laner, so that was definitely a characteristic we like the look of, and in general, his level of mechanics was strong, he understood how to play the map. In general, he had all the fundamentals, but the X factor was, I think, the really appealing quality that Tommy brought. We saw a lot in Ryoma, and we still see a lot in Ryoma, but it's gonna be a hindsight thing. It's gonna be something that's gonna be judged after the fact. All I can say is, so far in practice, doing his thing. So here's one from Luanite. What has been your favorite thing you now do on a daily basis as a GM since you stopped casting? And this is actually a really easy one. One of the big reasons I made the transition from on camera to the GM role was to be able to actually work directly with players. So honestly, it's the quiet moments, but also even the super competitive moments that I get to spend with players compared to just speaking about players on cast, that has been absolutely my favorite thing to do after this transition. And I'm still learning day on day, but it's very rewarding to spend time with players, and I guess I'm spoiled a bit because we have a really great bunch of young men here at 100 Thieves League of Legends. Here's a great one. I don't think we give away too much answering it, but it's an important question. From iShredley, what does a great game of League of Legends on stage look like for Zikz and the players? I want to know how their views compare and contrast with one another. I think the first question is probably the most important one, because what you're aspiring towards on stage and what actually happens, there can be a huge disconnect. Like, we had 2 victories on the last weekend that we played, one over Dignitas, where everyone was kind of sighing a bit and scratching their heads, but we escaped with the victory, and then a much more controlled performance against Immortals. And it's very easy to say, oh, the second one, that's what we're looking for, but I think if you go back and listen to the Heist, you hear some things that are pretty consistent. There's a lot of talk about aggressive plays, a lot of talk about punishing mistakes, and these are the sort of things that I think underpin what 100 Thieves League of Legends is about. In-game, there's a lot of reactions that need to happen. There's a lot of reading scenarios, communicating, and making the best use of conditional information. I think that's what we're looking for in 100 Thieves League of Legends, is for our players to be smart enough to read novel situations that might echo a scrim or their coach's words, and then make the informed right decision, which in some cases might just catch the opponent off guard. So it's about making sure our players can be put in any novel scenario, whether it comes to picks, meta, or draft, and being able to make the smart decision and be aggressive about it is, I guess, the essence of what 100 Thieves League of Legends is looking for, especially on the LCS side. This one is from, let's go with Zwerg Orange. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how else I would say it unless it's Zwerg Orange. Zwerg Orange, how does the team deal with negative comments, posts on socials after losses? More general, how do you approach psychologic parts of the game? I think everyone has their own strategy, and honestly, if left to their own devices, not everyone handles criticism in the best way. It's not fair to expect everyone to smile and kind of take the best out of it. It's not fair to even ask everyone to just ignore it because it's something that exists and they get poked at either directly when they go and visit Reddit or, in their comments and in their tweets. And I think the psychological part of the game is really important because there's so much practice, there's so much darkness that the fans don't get to see. And then there's maybe 45, 50 minutes, an hour worth of League of Legends every week that everyone sees. So you're judged on the 1 hour of gameplay compared to the 5-6 day build-up into a match day. And if one of them is very unlike the other in a good or a bad way, that's the sort of thing that can be so difficult to wrap your brain around and to truly understand. So I think in general, we've been lucky in that the boys have been pretty good at just trying to focus on the feedback of their coaching staff first and foremost. I think at the end of the day, everyone's pretty individual, but no one has allowed it to really morph into something that destroys practice days. If the players are where they want to be, the fans will be happy because the players we have here are only happy if they're succeeding, if they're winning, and if they're winning in a manner they can be proud of. So if everyone has the same end goal, then a future-focused mindset is absolutely the healthiest headspace the players can be in. And I think, with few exceptions, it's been something that's been possible here at 100 Thieves League of Legends. Here's one that's gonna grab everyone who watches this video from Griffey with a Spiffy. Favorite piece of merch? I assume you're referring to favorite piece of 100 Thieves apparel. I had that beaten into me, I have to say it that way. But my favorite piece of 100 Thieves apparel, you can probably tell I wear some variant of it for every match day and for these videos as well. These, I believe they're called midnight shirts, but this logo long sleeve shirt they sold at the end of last year. I'm a big fan, it's clean. The logo obviously is spitting hot fire here at 100 Thieves, so it's my favorite, so I just wear it all the time. Funny how that works out. From SH Copy, has your role, attitude, or goals for the team changed since the beginning of this split? I actually think this is a really important question because when it comes to a team that isn't necessarily winning every game like Cloud9, you really have to always be very on top of what were the goals you set, have they been reached? I think for every team other than C9, the consistent answer would be not as much as they would have hoped or not on the timeline they would have hoped. I feel like at 100 Thieves, we had a pretty good idea of what we were in for, and we've been pretty good at self-reflecting and focusing on our own metrics rather than just purely deciding our next move from the discussion. And by this discussion, I mean broadcast, I mean analysis, I mean fan feedback. I think you have to look internally when it comes to the goals you set, because the timeline most fans want is as soon as possible. We understand there will be short-term failings and short-term times that we don't achieve what we're looking for, but we're very confident in our long-term direction. But when it comes to where we want to be at the end of the year, the World Championships is the goal for any team in League of Legends, and where it wants to be in the future, which is a team that puts together multiple championship rosters. I feel like so far, so good. That's all the time we have for questions this week. Thanks so much for being a part of the Heist episode in a different way, because honestly, it's been, a different kind of week here when it comes to the League of Legends program. The Heist will, of course, still continue now that we have match days fast approaching, where our team will be playing. They will be playing from home. They will be playing online. It will be very different. So there are definitely challenges when it comes to telling the same stories we have been here at 100 Thieves League of Legends. But when challenges approach, so do opportunities. So tune in on the weekend for the LCS. It's going to be different, but it's going to be a fun show. And we know we need at least a couple of wins. We're trying to make it 4. Is it going to be tough? Absolutely. We're facing 3 of the teams above us on the standings right now. So there's definitely going to be challenges there. But, if we're going to make a dent in playoffs, we're going to have to play those teams anyway. So let's take them down at first time of asking and book ourselves our first trip back to playoffs since 2018.